Hello there Scapers, my name is Xenavilius and welcome to my Berserk Auras vs Supreme Accuracy Auras comparison video. This is the second in my series if you like, which started off with the tier 99 prayers versus tier 92 weapons video. And that one seemed to go down well with you guys seem to want more, and I'd been planning to do this one for a while because it's one of the most, I guess, misunderstood comparisons. I certainly had the wrong understanding of it for a long time, and hopefully it will clear things up for you guys as well. The first thing I should say is that the Berserk auras are a category of auras that includes from top to bottom Maniacal for magic, Berserker for melee, and Reckless for ranged. And the Supreme Accuracy auras are also a class of auras which includes from top to bottom Supreme Runic for magic, Supreme Brawler for melee, and Supreme Sharpshooter for ranged. Now let's get started with the bare facts. The bare facts are that the Berserk auras, which I'm going to depict by showing the Maniacal aura, but obviously includes all three in their class, have only a 30-minute use with a 5-hour cooldown, and they cost 50k loyalty points. Now by comparison, the Supreme Accuracy auras have a 1-hour use, which again for both of them can be extended, can be doubled by using Viswax. And these guys have a 3-hour cooldown, and they cost 107k loyalty points. The Supreme Accuracy aura itself costs 57k, but in effect it costs 107k by considering that you need to get the tiers below it in order to get to this tier. And yes, so a lot of things to think about straight away before we even compare the DPS. Are you really willing to pay 107k for the Supreme Accuracy aura? Do you even have 107k? And on the flip side, are you willing to pay 50k for an aura that has a 5-hour cooldown? So lots of things to consider, but let's get started with the bare facts. Now, the Berserk auras have 5 distinct effects. In white I've shown the effects that are invisible. In red I've shown the effects that are visible. So the visible effects, which you can see by opening up your skills, are that you get a plus 10% to your level, so magic, strength, attack, ranged, depending on which aura you use, and your defense is reduced by 15% of your base case, which is without any boosts. So if you're 99, your defense will be reduced by 15 levels. Comparing this to the Supreme Accuracy auras, the only effect of the accuracy auras is that they increase your accuracy, whereas there are so many more effects with the Berserk auras. The interesting thing about Berserk auras is that the plus 10% damage effect doesn't actually apply if you're using an ultimate. And by ultimate I mean Sunshine, Metamorphosis, Death Swiftness, and Berserk. So that's interesting in itself, and you might want to consider that as well. But let's get into the numbers. For the general case, and by general case I mean the following: Supreme Overloads, 99 on your combat skill level, tier 90 weapon and tier 95 curses, and plus 235 ability damage by using the best in slot items for ability damage. You get the following stats. So without any auras, obviously that's your base case, and your difference is 0. If you compare it with just the Supreme Accuracy aura, you can see the difference in accuracy is 10%. There is no difference in damage, and therefore your total is also 10%. Now with the Berserk auras, you got to apply everything I mentioned earlier, all 5 effects. Obviously I'm only looking at the 3 offensive effects, not the 2 defensive effects. So applying these, you can see that you have 11.9% increased damage using the Berserk auras compared to if you didn't use any auras, also compared to if you used Supreme Accuracy, because accuracy only increases accuracy and not damage. When you come to accuracy, you see that the increase is 20.91%. This is a result of 2 things. The first thing is that your stats are increased, and by increasing your stats you automatically increase your damage and accuracy, plus you have the additional 10% accuracy effect as well. So combining these 2, you get the numbers you see, and if you tally them all up, you get a plus 35.3% increased DPS, guys. That is crazy. That is absolutely insane. Now, say you're looking to get your first aura and you want to see which one to get first. Well, the difference in DPS between Berserk and Supreme is 23.04%. However, the difference between Berserk and no aura is 35%. That is crazy. And a couple of things I'd like to mention here are the one, that this is only if you're not using an ultimate, but 2, this is also only if you never ever hit 100% hit chance. If you hit 100% hit chance, obviously going above 100% hit chance doesn't mean anything. You're still going to hit 100% of the time. So when you actually look at specific bosses, this number will be different. So I'm going to look at a few specific bosses, but first we've got to consider the case case when you're using an ultimate. And the only thing that really changes is that the Berserk aura no longer has the whopping 11.94% damage increase, only has a 1.76% damage increase, because the only thing that's different is that you have 138 in your offensive level as opposed to 128. You no longer have that plus 10% invisible damage boost, and therefore the numbers drop down a little bit. You can also test all these effects on the Lumbridge dummies. You'll be able to see the invisible offensive effects as well. Obviously it's very difficult to test the invisible defensive effects unless you're doing PvP in Duel Arena or the Wilderness or something, but for the offensive invisible effects you can toggle max hit mode on the Lumbridge dummies and test out some abilities. The ones I tested were Sever, Dismember and Cleave. Now Sever and Cleave have the same ability damage, so they will hit the same with the max mode on the dummies. However, Dismember does not have the same effect with Berserk. So you can do a few things. You can obviously activate your Berserker aura and compare your hits to when you weren't aura'd up, if you like. You can also activate Berserk, and if you do that and calculate the numbers, they come out to be exactly how they've been described. One funny thing is that Dismember, which is a bleed, actually does less damage within Berserk if you have your aura on. The first thing is that bleeds aren't doubled in damage when you ultimate up, be it Berserk or Sunshine or Death Swiftness or Metamorphosis. And in fact, with the Berserker aura, it turns out that you actually do less damage with a bleed when you're inside an ultimate. That's because the 10% damage boost doesn't apply within the ultimate for the bleed, but it does outside of the ultimate. So that's kind of funny, I guess. Why would you bleed within an ultimate anyway? You shouldn't. That's what I'd say. And all the other numbers work out just fine. Now, what you're probably looking for is an average. Consider everything. Now, if you assume you do 1/3 of all your DPS outside your Sunshine and you do 2/3 of all your DPS during your Sunshine, that's an assumption obviously that will differ based on so many different things, then you can come out to a few numbers. One, that the Berserk auras are 27% increased DPS if you're looking to get your first set of auras. And number two, if you're looking to just compare Berserk versus accuracy, Berserk is 15.58% more DPS. Now, like I said, this number will be higher or lower depending on how much DPS you do while you're Sunshined and how much you do while you're not Sunshined and so on. But that gives you a rough indication of the DPS difference. That was obviously for a tier 90 weapon with tier 95 curses, but what if you consider tier 92 weapons and tier 99 curses? Basically the best endgame combination. Well, the numbers don't change much, but they do drop slightly. And there's a general point to make here. The more and more extra stuff you add, the higher and higher your base case scenario, the smaller and smaller the percentage difference becomes. Not by much in this case, but it's just a general point to note. Not just with weapons and prayers, but also with stuff like accuracy bonuses, affinity boosts, and so on. For the last part of the video, I'm going to look at a few bosses and see what the numbers are at these different bosses. I'm not going to look at all the ones I looked at in my previous analysis because that would just take too long, but I'm going to look at a few key ones. So first of all, Yakamaru. Given a realistic scenario, which is the following: tier 90 weapon, tier 95 curses, and the affinity boost from Quake, Statius Warhammer, and Claws of Gothics, you have the following stats. So without an aura, I wouldn't recommend going to any high level boss without an aura, but without an aura here, your hit chance is about 80%, 80.5%. And once again, I gotta say thank you to Chipapa's hit chance calculator for this. He's done a really good job of it, and I've actually used his numbers for the hit chance part of my video, so I'd highly recommend checking it out because it's very, very comprehensive. And he's also got all the stats of most of the boss monsters stored in there. As you might expect, your hit chance goes up when you put on an aura. It goes up even more when you put on the Berserker auras as compared to the Supreme aura. And the numbers are actually exactly the same as for the general case. This is because you never hit 100% hit chance, so the differences are always going to be exactly the same as before. There is nothing to separate the general case from this. However, Yakamaru is one of the few bosses where the 30% defense drain of the Statius Warhammer special actually works for more than a few seconds at a time. So if you factor this in, it turns out you hit 100% hit chance very quickly quickly. So your base case is 93%, you hit 100% with the Supreme Accuracy Aura, you go well beyond the 100% with the Maniacal Aura as well, which is obviously, which could be swapped out for any of the 3 Berserker Auras. And so your actual DPS increase is lowered as expected. Anything above 100% is still only 100%, you can't get more than 100%. So if you compare the 2 auras, Berserker and Supreme, you don't have any accuracy difference between the 2 because they're both above 100%. However, your difference in damage is 11.94%. So anywhere you start hitting 100%, the differences between auras get smaller and smaller. So that's a great indication of that. At Telos again, it's very similar to the Yakamaru case, but you never really hit 100% accuracy. So it's even better to use the Maniacal Aura. In fact, Maniacal is a great aura to use at low end rages, but at high end rages you gotta look at the other side of things, if you like. The other side being, you're gonna take a lot of damage, a hell of a lot of damage. You're gonna take not only 15% more damage, but also your defense is drained by 15%. So that's gonna increase the accuracy of Telos' hits on you, if you like, as well. Not just at Telos, but at all the bosses, but specifically at Telos, which is a very damaging encounter at high end rages. Not that I'm talking with any kind of experience, mind you, but I know very well how damaging it can be. So there's a bit of a weighing up to do from that side of things as well. But in terms of DPS, oh hell yeah, definitely use Maniacal, no question about it whatsoever. And finally I want to look at Araxxor, especially the ranged version of Araxxor when you're meleeing it. Now the realistic scenario again is that you're going to be using a Nihil and the Reaper necklace. Oh, by the way, I'm only looking at the case when you're not ultied in these specific boss analyses. If I looked at every single case, it would just become a very long video. So I'm focusing on when you're not ultimated and you're attacking a boss with tier 90 weapons and tier 95 prayers. As you saw earlier, the difference between using tier 90 and tier 95 is very, very little, almost negligible compared to using tier 92 and tier 99, unless you hit 100% hit chance. Anyway, back to Araxxor. As you can see, you start off with a very, very high hit chance with all these boosts without an aura, and it hits 100% very quickly as soon as you put on any of the auras, even the most basic version of the accuracy auras, which you can get for like 4k loyalty points. So your DPS increase by buying these auras is much lower than you might expect, and in fact in cases like these it becomes much more beneficial for you to buy the Berserk auras rather than the accuracy auras. If you're going to be doing a lot of Araxxor and you're going to be mailing it a lot, then accuracy is not as important to you as damages, and therefore the Berserker aura is much more useful to you, especially if you're only going to be doing say half an hour or 1 hour of Araxxor every 5 hours. So you got to weigh up what you do with which one you want to buy and whether it's useful for you. Another very important thing is that with the Berserker aura, your hit chance, as you can see, is 116.88%. This means you don't actually need an Nihil, because even without a Nihil you'll be at well over 100%. You don't need the Reaper necklace either, and in fact any hit chance above 108% means that you don't need a Nihil or a Reaper necklace. You'll still be hitting guaranteed without those two. So that's another important point to note. But just to conclude then, a few things. So Berserk auras are around 15% better average DPS than Supreme Accuracy auras. That's considering that you do 1/3 of your total DPS outside of ultimates and 2/3 within ultimates. That number may change depending on how often you use ultimates and so on. When you're taking really high damage, Berserk auras are very risky, as you might expect. Not only will you get hit more often, you'll get hit higher as well, which is actually very important because at bosses like Yakamaru and Virago, where they have a guaranteed hit chance on you, it's still not very good to use these auras, especially at Yakamaru, if you're sort of new to it and you want to minimize the damage you take. What you can do to sort of mitigate this effect somewhat is, if you normally use a Reaper necklace, you can swap it out for an Amulet of Souls, which will go some way towards negating that extra damage you're going to be taking, because if you're using Protect prayers and you're using an Amulet of Souls, you take less damage because of its special effect. So there are little things like that you might want to consider as well when you're deciding on this. And a few other points which I've talked about in this video. So when your max hit chance is well below 100% and you're not in an ultimate, your DPS difference is at a maximum. When your minimum hit chance is close to 100%, so you get to 100% very quickly and you're ultimated, your DPS difference becomes smaller. So The trend is that the higher your base damage and accuracy, the lower your DPS difference. By that I mean things like using better weapons and prayers, better jewelry and other bonuses, better perks as well. An important thing about perks is that perks don't actually improve your DPS difference. They may reduce it, they may stay the same, but they don't improve it. And the reason for that, especially at single targets, is that perks apply their boosts equally in each case. I can explain it better if you'd like. I explained it to someone in the previous video in the comment section. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it and found it very useful. I certainly really enjoyed making it and finding out a lot of things for myself. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next one.